is just on about 9 pounds or 10 pounds. Okay.
You must feed her very well.
She eats like a dog, and she has a lot of characteristics like a dog. Okay, good evening. This is the Chicago Computer Society Linux SIG meeting for September. And tonight I think we're going to have a pretty good night. I want to preface one thing, and there's a reason I want to do it. But hang on 1 second here. I'm going to bring up the screen. And this one has nothing to do with Linux. So tough. Let's see here. All righty. It'll be up in about a second here. Okay. Last week at a couple of meetings, I brought up about the fact that Windows 11 on September 26th, the information I had been given was that 23H2 was going to be released for 11. Well, yesterday and today, the writer of this particular article published, that's not the case. What it is in reality that they released today, it really is the new Copilot, which is an AI driven kind of like a chat thing that helps you do things, find things, et cetera, et cetera. Also, his analysis is that the other piece, which I guess I never noticed, if you had 2 or more browsers as an example open, instead of having a icon on the taskbar per browser, you had one icon, and when you hovered your mouse over it, it would show you stacked all the open browsers. And because the pictures are small, in some instances, you may have difficulty selecting which one it is that you wanted to bring forward on your screen. Supposedly, they're going to give an option to stop doing that feature. But this is not 23H2. It is momentum number 4. Think of momentum as being new 11 enhancements that you may or may not want. And some of them can be disabled, some of them cannot. So this is the first foray in momentum 4. There may be additional things coming. So that means either, and most likely, the second Tuesday of next month will be the release of 23H2 after your regular updates. And if it doesn't come out then, most likely November. But in either case, everything that's planned for 23H2 may not come out right away. There are some things they're still working on, like normal, that will gradually be activated as we go along with 23H2. Since this is a PSA. Okay, somebody was starting to speak up. Did somebody say something besides me? I heard some voices.
I was talking to Margaret on the side. I forgot.
Okay. I wanted to bring that up mostly so that it's out there that this is the situation that we got a false alarm by quite a few different sources that this was going to be the release date of 23H2, which seemed odd to me, but I'm not Microsoft. They can do what they want to with their products. All right, now from this point forward, we'll get into Linux. And does anybody have anything that they want to bring up in the way of problems or questions to start off with? How about you, Earl?
Okay, well, I had sent you email earlier in the week when I was looking at some of the statistics on my computer. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm kind of far away from the screen. And I wondered if the disk partitions were screwed up in my system, and since you and I worked together to put it all together, and it just seems to me, for example, my root directory has 40 gig of memory, and yet when I look at the statistics of that, it's almost all consumed, such that the little ribbon statistic on that partition has turned red on my system, indicating to me that it's too small. And when I look at the layout of that disk, there are a couple of places there that don't seem to be allocated at all. And then what I historically would note is my /home partition has got this very strange long string of hexadecimal characters, and that really surprised me. And so I asked you the question, what is all of this? And you indicated that this kind of a change is due to things like flat paks and snap containerized application programs. So I said, oh, okay, let's talk about that. And I took it that you would want to summarize all of that this evening.
Okay, now for everybody's edification, he showed a bit of the directory structure, and it was showing a whole lot of things. And I'm aware that Snap and Flatpak, I'm not sure about app image, are containerized applications. Well, it turns out virtually all of the OSs, this includes Windows, this includes probably Apple's Mac, I'm not sure about iOS Pad, I'm not sure if they'll carry it forward into the iOS for phones, and I don't know about Android as yet. But basically all the operating systems and applications are going to various means of containerization simply to isolate things and increase security. Bob Premick?
It is impossible that the extra partitions had anything to do with Flatpak, and Snap. Flatpak lives in var, and that's part of your home or root part of your root partition. There is a Snap /Snap partition in your home directory. As for whether or not they take up a lot of space, not really. App images can take up a lot of space, but they are not containerized in that sense.
Yeah, well, I haven't played with app image, so I didn't bother with trying to state them. But I have read and heard that virtually everything is in motion to go towards containerization to create isolation and thus increase both system security and to some extent privacy as well.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that,
No,
just
no.
with the idea that there are extra partitions, which there
Well,
will not be, or that there are large spaces taken up, which there are not.
the other thing is, now Earl, I didn't think of it at the time, but now that you brought up here at the meeting about your space for root, which is 40 gigabytes, which is almost double any of my systems, and I've got lots of different Linux systems. So I gotta start wondering, what are you doing to clean up?
Well, in the root partition, I haven't done any cleanup. You know, you introduced me to Bleach Bit when you were here.
Okay,
I and when you ran that, you said, "Holy smoke! There's all kinds of stuff in here that we can get rid of." And so, with the right parameters into that application, a lot of stuff was in fact deleted. But so one thing I guess you could do, or I could do with your assistance, is take a look at Bleach Bit on that root partition, because you're right. I really think 40G is certainly ought to be enough.
well, what I'm also trying to get to is the fact that I don't care what computer operating system you have, Windows, Mac, any version of Linux you can dream up, Chromebooks, and other things. You got to do housekeeping. You got to clean up all the trash they leave behind.
Well, what trash would be left in the root?
Any programs, and I emphasize any programs, that includes the operating system, are constantly creating temporary files, but they do not always delete their garbage when they are done with them. They leave them sitting there as dead wood, taking up space. This is standard in every single system I'm aware of.
Okay, so if I
So
went in,
every a minimum once a month, you got to run cleanup programs. Bleach Bit is one major one, and I'll go on from there after I let Bob again.
Yeah. A little tip for cleanup in Linux. Especially Ubuntu derivatives. Anything, anytime you have the kernel getting an update, the old kernel is not removed very efficiently by the Ubuntu family or subfamily of Linux. Ubuntu is a subfamily of Debian. Ubuntu and also Mint are notorious for leaving behind extra kernels. This has the effect of filling up the root partition and the boot partition.
yes, that could very well be the case, because I'm running KDE Neon, and I've had several instances in the last several weeks where there's been very major updates. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised that I don't have multiple kernels in there.
Well, you should keep 3 kernels, but not more than 3. That is to say, the current, the last previous, and the last previous before that. Also, apt, the installer,
Yes.
keeps a cache, which will include basically installers for updates to your programs. And the apt cache can grow and grow and grow and grow. BleachBit is supposed to clean it by default, but it's not as good as what used to be called Computer Janitor, now known as Ubuntu Cleaner. Ubuntu Cleaner is not in the repositories, so you have to go fetch it from
Hello?
somewhere else.
I don't know if anybody can hear me at the moment. Hang loose. I've got a computer problem. My main system just went out and I don't at the moment know why.
Tim, you have a frozen image, but your voice is coming through quite
Sorry
clearly.
about that.
You're fine, and also the screen share looks good. So I think you're still functioning, unless the recording quit. But in any event, for Earl's issue, I would use Computer
Okay.
Janitor.
I should be back now.
Your image is still frozen.
You
Oh,
guys,
there you are. You're here. You're here.
my main system just blanked out. And I don't know what the problem is, but I got the other two systems running.
So are we still being recorded?
I haven't, well, it means one of the recordings ain't gonna be there and the other one, I don't know.
Okay.
My
Uh,
system shows we're still recording.
I don't know what happened yet.
So Zoom Cloud is still recording. Yeah, there's the red record button. Okay, well, anyway, if we can yield the share so that I can show where you get Ubuntu Cleaner and what it is,
We can share.
let me
I gotta
first
stop
make sure
moving.
I've got something I can share. Okay, now I can do that. Now I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to do my desktop share, and you're seeing that, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
there it
That's
is.
exactly right. Now you're seeing my Chromium, which is like Chrome. And now I'm going to add a tab and go into there. And I'm going to bring up Ubuntu Cleaner. And it's at GitHub. You pronounce that JIT, not Git. Because Git is a bad word in England. Just a minute. Let me shrink my browser for a minute so that I can get to the JIT. Okay. Gerard Puig, or Puig, I think he's Puig. Gerard Puig has a private personal repository, which is a PPA, in which he keeps Ubuntu Cleaner. And you can install Ubuntu Cleaner by adding adding the software properties common, and then you add the repository, which is his PPA. He's safe, but not all PPAs are, so don't get into the habit of using them. And then update apt, and then install Ubuntu Cleaner. Okay? So far, so good. Now, let me call it up and show you what it is. Ubuntu Cleaner is Computer Janitor. That is the old name for the program. It cleans up some things that BleachBit doesn't get at as easily. You do have some apps that'll be around, and I have a cache from Chromium. Chromium builds up a big cache sometimes if you have a lot of tabs. And it'll have cache and it'll have a code cache. And then personal is a thumbnail cache. That's usually tiny. Here's the apt cache. I have only 2 items in there, but you're probably going to have hundreds.
It could very well be, yeah.
And that's something that BleachBit should be cleaning, but Computer Janitor gets at it much more directly. And package configurations, that's going to take up a lot of space because that's where your older kernels and even kernels that have been removed, their configurations will still be there, and those can be large. And there might be some unneeded packages. There's another way to get rid of unneeded packages, and that is to run auto remove. I'll let Tim describe what auto remove is about, since that's part of the cleanup process, and he probably has as good a grip on it as any of us. I'll unshare now. If I can figure out, here we are. Okay, is that clear enough?
Yes, that was very helpful. I'll look for that.
And
Okay.
what you should look at is what percentage is your boot partition filled?
It's
How much
very
space
high.
is there left in that boot partition?
Yeah,
Because that's where these extra kernels will live.
yeah. Well, that's what's running out for sure.
Yeah, if boot is running out, you've got too many kernels. If it's your root partition, you've probably got caches that have gotten big.
Okay, this system is fairly new that I've got up, and I'm showing bleach bit right now. And basically speaking, almost everything here on the left column can be checked off. And bash means that if you got history, because you're doing a lot of stuff in the command line terminal, especially running scripts, it keeps track of this stuff. And so it can accumulate over a span of time. Deep scan, you want to okay everything there in that category except the last two, unless you use VIM in the command terminal as your editor. I don't particularly care for Vim. I prefer one called Nano. And many Linux distributions have Nano, but not all, but they can have Nano added to them. Then it gets into your browsers. I'm a researcher, so I click on, oops, I want to cancel on the last two. I click on Firefox, and it asks to okay certain things. Because I'm a researcher, I like to restore my last session on the browser, so I always uncheck that particular one so that it does not clean out my prior history and prevent me from seeing what I had there when I quit. System. Again, I get into saying okay for everything in that category, but I undo custom and free disk space because custom is adding extra special folders that you want to clean out, and free disk space takes a long time to run, and so it's kind of a expeditious type of deal. The rest I leave. Localization, if you have foreign languages, will probably eliminate them. Next is X11, which many of us are still running on if you're not on some form of Wayland.
Tim, would you scroll?
Pardon?
Scroll, because we can only see down through system custom.
You're only seeing part of the screen?
The left-hand column where it should be scrolling in bleach bit. And there is a scroll bar for your left-hand column in bleach bit, and we're not seeing down to the bottom because you need to scroll down.
Right. There you go.
Okay, and the last entry in here is Zoom, and definitely you want to check that. So you got all these categories, and it usually will remember them the next time you run the program, so you don't have anything extra to select. These are all my defaults. And then you click on, so anytime you're going to do it, you run preview. This is going through and it's got a blue status bar here. And it tries to figure out what's available. On my system right now, and this is not very old, I've got about an estimated 365.7 megabytes that can be recovered. Understand, there may be files within that total sum that are currently in use. When you do cleanup, it cannot do anything to an open file. Since it cannot do anything to an open file, you may get less than the amount shown there. Bob?
There are some caveats, however. First of all, you will not get rid of anything in the system areas if you run as user. You have to run as root in
I
order to do
understand
that.
That's,
Now,
that's 100% correct.
when you run as root, be very careful. I wouldn't even check off memory when running as root. Because if you clean memory when you're running as root, you're going to crash Linux.
Actually, I've run it in with memory in root, and I usually run it in root. This is not in root mode right now because I did not
Yeah.
log in with the administrator's password.
Right. As long as you're doing it as user, you're probably not going to kill off anything vital to running Linux.
Yeah, but I've run it with root with the administrator password, and it has not crashed my systems.
Okay, maybe your mileage differs from mine, but when I run the memory cleanup as root, especially in Ubuntu, but even in Mint, I will get the screen either freezing or going black for a while, and then I'll get crash reports.
Boy, I
So
haven't had that on umpteen different systems, and not all of them are Mint or Ubuntu. And I have never come across that particular characteristic. But
well,
it's interesting to know about it.
it depends on what you've got installed and how it's running at various times. But I do find that happens chronically. And it happens in Ubuntu, Mint, and Ubuntu Unity. So
Now, coming back up here to the deep scan, it's if there's any backup files the system is making, it gets rid of them, temporary files, thumbnails, but it in certain instances, and again, I did not log in administrator. This is the standard user version of the same program. And what is missing, but Bob Premick brought up about it, is there's another section in Linux in the Debian family that'll show up near the top here that will take out old versions of your kernels, take out and do auto cleanup, auto remove, get rid of orphan files, things like that that are no longer needed in our dead wood. But I'm gonna now that I've done the preview, I'm gonna click on clean. So if you want to do a thorough cleaning, you want to do it as the administrator. In other words, your root login password. And that way it cleans up everything. But your mileage may vary, and Bob's warning that down here under system, memory may be a problem in some systems or versions of Linux. It may cause you a crash, in which case that's not a good thing, and you'd want to have that unchecked. But I have run so many versions with BleachBit as root, because that's the way I normally run the cleanup with BleachBit. I'm kind of surprised that some systems would crash, I have not experienced. And I can't tell you if it's a hardware problem, a driver problem, an OS problem, or exactly what the possible problem that Bob has experienced. Not that he didn't have it happen. It's a case where I haven't seen it. And I play with a lot of different versions of Linux. So I guess your mileage may vary, but that's just one area. And that can be unchecked because all it's doing is checking what's in memory at the time, trying to figure out what is no longer needed and tries to remove it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
The other thing is, as with so many cleaners, just a moment. There, I've lowered my hand. Bleach bit will, as root, not be able to clean the user areas. And as user, it can't clean the root areas.
That's correct.
The root areas are more likely to accumulate a lot of junk, but the user areas can also get pretty big.
Oh, yeah.
Because
a normal process would be to run it in both modes.
Yeah. Right.
But it depends on where you're getting a shortage. And Earl's shortage is in the root. So that's where you have to start.
Let
Yeah.
me share the screen. I've got BleachBit as root up on.
Hang loose for a minute, Bob, Earl. I want to point out one other thing while I'm here. When you go into system, when you click any of the major categories, you get what each category in here and a brief description of what it does. Memory will wipe the swap file and free memory. Apparently, in Bob Premick's system, either because of the swap file being in use and or the free memory is using some of the space for caches and buffers, which most OSs do. It's wiping out something there that's causing the crash. That's
caches, buffers, and graphics acceleration.
Okay.
I have some pretty hefty graphics acceleration in both of my computers, and Linux picks up on that.
This is what you have to watch the definitions until you get a good understanding and handle on them. So if you think you could be a victim of a problem like Bob Premick brought up, I suggest unchecking the memory. I have not experienced it myself. So back to here, I would do clean. It always wants a confirmation, which I think is a waste of my time, but I select delete. It's going to go through with the progress bar again, trying to delete stuff. If you see something in red, it was probably an open file. It could not delete because it's kind of locked up until the program or operating system is done with that file and closes it.
And one other instance, it'll show up in red if the user doesn't have permission to do those things. For example, most of the memory areas, my user cannot delete.
Right, like this here. And this is a user's mode, and this is stuff that it doesn't have permission to mess with. But it says down here in the corner, I got 380.7 megabytes. 360.7 megabytes. So this red area amounts to about 5 megabytes. Not a big deal. If I was in the administrator's mode running the program, now you got an issue where it is most likely an open file. There are a few instances where it can be permissions also, because it's like a super user type permission required to mess with it. So those I don't worry about. Generally speaking, the red stuff, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over, because I have a fair understanding why it's red. And the majority of it is stuff you it have open that it cannot delete, or in the user's mode of running the program, you don't have permission to delete the file, even if it's closed, because the root has control over the permissions of that. Okay, Earl, you got a question?
Yeah, I have,
Not allowed.
pardon? I want to share my screen to show you what's the bleach bed is.
Hang loose. I gotta get out of my stuff, or you cannot share.
Okay,
Go ahead.
what the heck? Okay, I have 4 desktops here, so.
You just select the first top left icon, that's your desktop, and we can see anything you got on the desktop or launch.
Okay,
This is all totally new to me on this cleanup. What do most people do? Are you using Beach Fit, or Ubuntu Cleaner?
I couldn't make out all that. The speakers I got on right now don't do a very good job, because my main system went out.
Okay,
So,
what I'm asking is, which is most people using? This is totally new to me, and it's something I've run Ubuntu for years and never really cleaned anything.
well,
Very
I,
cool.
there's no reason you can't run both. It's very quick and very safe to run Ubuntu Cleaner. Just be careful not to check off the item of old kernels, because it will remove all your old kernels. You don't want to do that. Old kernels usually will be removed through auto remove,
Right.
but only when they reach a certain number. Again, that auto remove doesn't automatically run in Ubuntu or Mint.
Right.
And that's why you have to do that separately.
Yeah.
If I'm in the command line and I'm doing updates, I will simply do sudo either sudo apt auto remove, or I will do sudo apt upgrade, and the upgrade command will show what can be auto removed. And it's very often a lot of stuff.
That's
Okay,
good to know.
do you see what I have on there?
Yes. Yes, we see it.
Again, I've got everything there.
Okay, and I want to bring up here, since you are in administrator mode or the root, you have that section at the top here called APT.
Yeah, I see.
APT, auto clean, gets rid of a lot of garbage. Click on APT up here on BleachBit. Thank you. You have auto clean, deletes obsolete files left behind by normal updating. Auto remove that Bob Primick was talking about, deletes obsolete files, and that includes obsolete kernels. But when it does it, it normally leaves the last 1 or 2 old versions in case you run into a problem with the newest kernel.
Good.
That way you can keep your system running. But anything that's older than 3, it will get rid of them. Wait a minute, let's go back to that APT. Next is cleanup. It deletes out various caches that accumulate a lot of garbage from system operations, and package lists get deleted as well, because once you install your updates and stuff, that becomes useless garbage that can accumulate over time. Okay, now what? So you can go through all these sections and see exactly what each of them does, and it will give you some kind of guidelines as to what they are. If you are unsure what it's talking about, go to a browser, go to your search engine, and start looking this stuff up and get a better idea of what it's talking about.
Do you like what is checked there?
Everything that you got checked should be checked with as far as being in the administrator's account.
Okay.
Now, if you run this again without the root version, that's a standard users one, you get the look I gave. And
Nice.
that look is to get rid of things that pertain to the user account. So you have to run both.
Well, I can click preview right now, can I?
That's correct. Go ahead.
Five hundred meg.
It estimates 505.7 megabytes. Now,
Yeah.
if you click on clean up at the top.
Auto clean?
No, up at the top, right there.
Oh, okay. Should I click on it?
Yes. And now it wants to confirm that you're going to delete what it finds, or try to anyway. Go
Did I
ahead.
go ahead and run it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll hit delete.
Now, watch in the bottom left corner, it will actually start showing you how much it's getting rid of for real. And it cannot, in that estimate of 505 megabytes, estimate how much is in the APT category that can be gotten rid of. That's what it's figuring out right now. By the way, you can put your hand down a little offhand.
Yeah, when you see the listing and when you've done your preview, it will list next to any item that has anything, how much space that particular item is taking up.
Right.
And that's in your left-hand column. And then it will sum it up at the bottom of the left-hand column.
Okay, how do I get that hand to go down?
You got to go down to the bottom of the Zoom screen to get your controls.
Okay, I see it. Well, why didn't it do anything?
Because you didn't get the right one, really. No, you're in the wrong thing there. You got to go down to the bottom of your whole Zoom screen. Very bottom area. Oh, wait a minute. Up at the top. Never mind. Go up to the top there.
Yeah,
And
that's what
under more. Yeah. Click more. Click on more and go down. Oh, here's it. It's not showing you it. Oh, click on reactions. Click reactions. And click the three dots. What the heck did it do? Nothing. What the?
Well, over here on the right,
Well, no, the more reactions should take out give you the option to lower your hand. Now, down in the bottom left corner of bleach bit, how much does it say it just took out?
8.76 gigabytes.
Out of it, your 40. And up at the top, APT grand total was 8.11 gigabytes. Auto remove took out 5.38 gigabytes. Clean took out 2.55 gigabytes. And package list took out 179.2 megabytes. So you got your dirty laundry. Now you got to run bleach bit without root to get the other stuff for your standard user account. So this is done. You can close it, X out.
Okay.
And then
And of
you-
course. Good.
Let me stop sharing.
okay, now, Bob, go ahead.
And of course, 8 out of 40 is quite a considerable percentage.
That's quite correct. That's why I said, when he started describing the stuff, I picked up on the fact that he was running out of space and he had a 40 gig partition I set up for him.
Yeah, now,
And the biggest route I've ever done is 25 and had plenty of room always because I cleaned up my trash.
well, right
But-
now, it's saying I'm using 74% of that space.
Yes, but you haven't also cleaned out the standard user account yet either.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, your standard user will be mostly in your home directory,
That's
which
right.
is in your case, a separate partition.
Right. And but here's the thing, there is a bit that does come out of root also. It's negligible, but it nonetheless there. So you've got a bunch of stuff you put on your system that are taking up a lot of space inside of the root. Now, as an example, Bob Primick brought up the snap packages are using the virtual folder. Well,
Yep.
It's taken up a lot of space in the virtual folder. It's a case where you may need, you go ahead and click on close in the bottom right corner of that preferences.
Okay.
I have never changed anything on that screen anyhow. Now you have to reselect everything because this is a different user. So go ahead and click the major, bash history, deep scan. Now I click OK. Click OK. Click OK. Wait a minute. Oh, stop. No, hit cancel on that one. Okay, now in going down.
I want to cancel on this too.
Uncheck that, yeah. Because you're not probably running Vim. Now go to Firefox, click that. Do you do, go ahead, and do you do research? Like I do, where you want to pick up where you left off in the browsers? Yes or
No,
no?
I don't. No, I close my browsers now.
Okay, that's fine. Leave it as is and on the system restore. Then you got Glenview, whatever that is.
It's an image viewer.
Okay, I haven't seen an image viewer in there. You got Journal D. You got System. Now go ahead and click System. Click OK. Click OK. Keep doing it until that disappears. Now scroll down a little bit. Now, don't go too any further. Go back up there where it says custom and free disk and uncheck those. And probably undo the memory. Just so that you don't crash. Now you've got thumbnails, VLC, memory. All those can be the majors checked. And this gets rid of stuff you don't need any longer.
How about Zoom? I'm
Yeah.
running it.
Zoom is running, but it will not delete anything that's open.
That's right. That's what I said.
So should I check it? Not-
Any of these tools cannot delete an open file, period.
So
But-
I will,
It's against the law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Zoom, I would not mess with it during a Zoom session.
Oh, I just did. Right
Yeah,
in front of guys.
you're okay, but I think in some cases, maybe edge cases, but in some cases, you could get kicked out of a meeting that way.
I doubt it. I'm serious when I say that. But anyway,
Okay,
you've got right now an estimated 683 megabytes. Click clean up at the top.
yeah.
Click delete. And we'll find out what it can actually take out down the bottom left.
yeah, it's about 600 meg, 642,
642 megabytes additional.
and 3 errors.
Well, that's the stuff that was in red as it was going through there. And bottom line, you didn't have permission or they were open files. And
Okay.
it's against the law. So unless you want to end up in Leavenworth prison, it ain't gonna happen.
All right, so I'll cancel out of the bleach bit.
That's right. Now
Yeah.
you've done that cleanup. Now stop your share.
Mhm.
Okay, now if we I'll do a share for a second tool. That's a good tool also. Share. Now, here's a program I also run. Can you see this screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Stacer. If I bring up the software manager, of course, it'll take a couple lifetimes to come up. I've only got 4 gigs in this particular system right now till I get more memory.
How do I get back to the screen?
What do you mean, get back to the screen?
I just have that bar, you know, mute, stop video, participants, new share, you know.
You
all-
stop the screen share, right?
Yeah,
What's
so,
up there now is what I'm sharing.
okay, but I don't see anything else but the bar.
At, well,
New share,
at the bottom of your Zoom screen are your controls. Unless you're on a tablet or an Apple type device like an iPad. Okay, now I've got the software manager up. If I type in, you know, I got to use a different keyboard. Stacer, it's going to do a search, and you see my green check mark here, which means it's already installed. If it didn't have the check mark, you'd click it, and you could then do an install of the program. Now, in Stacer, if you come to the little broom here, it's for cleanup. This is the categories of cleanup. And mind you, this is in the user area, not the system area. Okay. You come down here, you click select all, click the magnifying glass, and it says, I found this additional thing in 3 categories for about barely over around 500 megabytes. And then you come down over here on the left, do select, hit the broom. You have to give the password. And it's done. It cleaned out more that BleachBit didn't get. Because I ran BleachBit on here on the standard account. I didn't run it on root. and it still found more stuff. So this is the strange thing. I don't care whether you're on Windows, you're on Mac, any version of Linux you can dream up. All cleanup programs were made by human beings. Every human being and or business, when there are multiple people working on the same software, have perspective, and everybody's perspective is slightly different. Also, their knowledge base affects their perception, and therefore the combination of how they see things and their knowledge, they will find, maybe like BleachBit, most of your trash and get rid of it, but other programs will, if they're run, also find additional trash to clean out. Now, Stacer is an easy one for me to run because I'm in standard mode most of the time. I can run this anytime I think I've got a lot of trash in the standard account to free up space. But at least once a month, I run BleachBit in both root and standard account to get rid of the majority of stuff after I've done a update, and I check things out from the update to get a feel that everything went a-okay, that there's no problems. Then I do my cleanup, then I do my backup. So cleanup to me means I have to have several programs. I'll look at Bob's Ubuntu cleanup program, since I have a few versions of Ubuntu I run, and I'll be probably adding that under Ubuntu systems. I'll see if it runs under Mint and does a good job there too. Under Windows, I may run 4, 5, 6 different programs just to clean out the maximum amount of trash I possibly can get out of that system after I've done my system updates. Then I will do my backup last, so that I have a running system. I have all the updates in, I have all the trash cleaned out, and I've done any tune-up that I can do on that particular OS. And then I have a backup copy of the state of the machine. So this is how I play with things. Bob?
Earl is still indicating he has not been able to get his Zoom video back.
I have only the bar, the control bar.
Okay, do you have a red line through your camera?
No. Now I do. I click on it, but if I unclick it and I don't see the screen.
Are there, on that little bar on the far right side,
Yeah.
there are 3 little buttons:
Yeah.
close, maximize, minimize, and the dash.
Now, if I click on the more, I get a pop-up menu: chat, record, notes, reactions, enable annotation for others, hide names of annotators.
Hang on. Do you have a title bar that says Zoom meeting at the very top?
I don't think so.
Then in the lower right-hand corner,
Because we're seeing you just fine, Earl.
in the lower right-hand corner, do you have something that looks like a square with an arrow coming out of it?
No, in my, what do they call it, taskbar at the bottom, I have the Zoom indicated there, you know, a Z and a blue background.
Well, on your left side of that bar, at the
Yeah.
bottom of the Zoom screen, is a microphone and
Yeah.
a camera. Do
Yeah.
either of them have a red line through them?
No.
Yes, no,
No. They do not have. Under the bar, it says your screen sharing is paused.
Oh, you paused it. You didn't end it.
Okay, so,
You need to stop screen share.
all right.
hey, that's surprising that I was able to share my screen and he wasn't actually stopped.
His was paused by
Okay.
whatever actions occurred. Now, if you, instead of pause, you unpause and then hit stop, you'll stop your share. And that should return everything to normal, fingers and toes crossed.
Okay. I've got pause share on the main bar, and underneath it there is a smaller line there. Your screen share is loading.
Yes,
Mhm.
but
Right of that is stop share.
Hit the
oh,
stop
look
share.
what happens if you hit stop share?
Well,
Yeah.
I've been hitting it, but nothing happens when I hit it.
Well, this may have something to do with something you cleaned.
No, I'll bet you it has to do with that he's paused. So he
Yeah.
has to unpause,
Yeah.
click pause section to bring up the loaded section of your screen. Then you hit the stop share.
Okay, in the black bar, there is the pause share.
Well, click that to unpause.
Mhm.
Well, now I clicked it and it says resume share.
Okay, so
Okay.
resume.
Resume it.
All right, and it now shows pause share with the two vertical bars.
And
beneath that, it says, again, this little other window, your screen share is loading. And it looks like a radio button there, which is clicked. There's two radio buttons there. The zoom window may be shared out, and the other one is, and it doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything if I click on it.
Oh, I know where he's at. He's on the screen where you select what you're sharing. Just click the share button at the bottom right.
if you have a share button at the
No.
bottom right,
No,
Are you on pause or on resume?
it's on pause.
Put it on back to resume.
Okay,
Now, in that screen that shows up there, in the bottom right of it, do you see share button? Green.
no. I see in this little thing where it says your screen sharing is paused, there's a green upward arrow on the left side of that, dock to top.
Pardon?
It
Repeat
says
that.
if I hold my mouse over this green arrow pointing up, it says dock to top.
Click it. Let's see what happens.
Black to bottom. Oh, it just moves the bar to the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen.
That's where it normally is.
Yeah, I'll leave it at the
Somehow
bottom.
somehow you've got it switched around. Click on
Yeah.
share screen at the bottom there.
I have a new share.
yep, that's the one you need.
Go ahead with the new share.
Okay.
Bring
Yeah,
up your
up
desktop
to- yeah. I
And-
see that.
and then share the desktop again.
Okay.
We'll see what it does, if anything.
Yeah.
All
Now,
right.
Now, up at the top, you should have, oh, wait a minute. On yours, it's sitting here at the bottom. You
Yeah.
see that nice red little square or rectangle? It says stop share.
I
Done.
just clicked.
Now, what do you see on your screen?
just see the little vertical panel at the right with our 4 pictures in it.
So you've got it still on the right. That means it still has the old share in there that you haven't stopped. You're the first that I know of this got in this situation.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure how the hell you get out of it because I haven't come across it before.
Well, I could leave the meeting and rejoin, couldn't I?
No, because I won't let you.
Okay.
That may be the easiest way to clear up the problem, though, because you've got something that it thinks is sharing,
Yeah.
or that you're going to want to share because you didn't stop it. And
Okay.
now it's confused.
I'm back to the screen that says select a window or application you want to share. Basic, advanced, and basic is in bold. Then the 3 things there: system, desktop to capture,
And
use.
down in the corner is a share button. No. In the other, you should be able to, on that screen, click the share button.
Yeah, I'll click the share button. And then, of course, it comes up screen share and portal. Choose which screen to share with Zoom. And there's 2 things on here.
Select the one that was showing your desktop.
Yeah. It's highlighted. Now I can hit share.
Yeah.
And I get this
Now,
little panel that shows your 4 pictures.
right. Now, click on stop share. Go down to share again, and you may see one more window just hovering the button over it. If so, click that one, bring it up. We got to clear those out.
Well, I'm telling you, it's the bar as before. I can say it shows resume share.
Yes, you want to resume share.
Okay, but it doesn't do anything. I mean, I don't see anything.
Well, it's confused. It's got something in there because it never was stopped. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, but then I can't stop sharing either. That's the weird.
Yeah, well, not anymore, apparently.
Okay, but I don't even see a place to leave the meeting at this point. Why don't I try to leave the meeting? That's one way out.
I think that's the only way it's going to get rid of your problem.
Okay.
I haven't heard of this problem come up before, but you're first.
All right, so
And you can watch the video for the stacer that I was showing.
Okay, I see a leave meeting item
Yeah.
on the menu here. I'm gonna click it.
Right.
I'll try to rejoin.
Are we all having fun yet? That's a first. Honest to God, I have in all the meetings I've ever attended, that's a first.
It's probably because he was cleaning with the meeting on live.
Well, he also didn't click on stop video. He clicked on a line that gives the ability to pause it and then resume it, but it's gotten all confused on his system. Anyway, generally, I'm gonna come up here to. Okay, I got an article in here about thinking about switching to Linux. 9 things you need to know. And I was hoping we had a few more people that might be a newbie. I don't know if we do or not, but this is an article to go through, and I'll be giving you a download. Here's Earl back. And when you this is an article, Earl, thinking about switching to Linux. 9 things you need to know beforehand. It's more for newbies than anything else, but it may be of some interest for everybody to look through. It's easier than you think because a lot of people they hear about the command line terminal, i.e. like old MS-DOS. That's where developers and designers do most of their work. But for everybody else, and I've been shown for months here, all kinds of articles about graphical interface programs, just like you have in Windows and Mac OS. So that's baloney. In the graphical user interface, and the GUIs are good. You can use Mac OS or Windows. You can use Linux. Bottom line. Number 2, Linux is not just a kernel. The kernel is generally referred to as being the proper label for Linux. Everything else that comes with the Linux is various kinds of utilities and application programs to make a usable working system, because Linux kernel by itself only knows terminal mode, and therefore bash commands and or bash scripts. Bash scripts are like very advanced, powerful batch files from MS-DOS days. You have distributions are just different brands of Linux operating system. That's what's so confusing. And this is just a tiny bit. There's over 600 distributions out there that are usually active. And they usually break down into a couple categories. Debian-based stuff, which includes Ubuntu and Mint, as just a couple. There's Zorn is also there. I think Elementary is Debian-based too, etc. And then you have RPM-based, which the most notable is Red Hat and Fedora. But under that also is OpenSUSE and one called Garuda, that is a kind of like the difference between Ubuntu and Mint. Mint thinks theirs is a better, simpler interface than Ubuntu's. So they build on Ubuntu, creating a new look and feel, giving you Mint. Well, Garuda is one of those that is an advanced form. Then you have, there are so many choices. Well, excuse me. Anybody who's using any kind of computer that actually does run is inundated with choices, whether they know them all or not. If you go to any of the stores by the OS manufacturer, you see tons and tons of application programs that they offer. Then you go out to other third-party sources and get even more choices. Some are free or free to use, or shareware type software. Some are trialware, where they work for a while, but then either they stop working or they become a limited free version. And then you have paid for versions. And some of the paid for versions are a one-time payment, and other ones are a subscription based, like MS 65 is a subscription based type program, and Adobe's products are subscription based. So you're paying a fee every year to keep using the software. Then you have you'll find help everywhere. Generally speaking, all you gotta do is bring up a browser and do a search for your problem, and odds are you're gonna come up with lots of articles. Some of the articles might be out of date or intentionally misleading. But a lot of the stuff for Linux, even real old stuff, usually will work still today. The particular software that is up to date, you'll have up to date information, and you can still go back 12 months in most instances and find answers to your problems or questions that you have. It's up to you to filter through all the stuff. And this applies to Windows and Mac as well. Not all hardware will work, but most do. Usually hardware that doesn't work is because they either have a buggy driver right now, or they have not made a driver for it. And unless you're a person that can figure out how to make a driver, most of the drivers we have are by enthusiasts for Linux and universities, where students are learning how to make the drivers to run pieces of hardware. How you get your non-working hardware drivers, working ones at any rate, that's a $64 question. Because this usually, your hardware drivers usually come through your update process. Then you have, you won't want for apps. There's over 30,000 in a library under Synaptics alone. So if anybody who's got all 33,000 applications loaded on their computer, you got one hell of a lot of mass storage. And odds are it will take you longer than you have to live to go through all the programs just to find out what they're like and what they do. Then you'll use your passwords more often. That's true up to a point. It depends on how you have Windows and Mac set up as to how often you get the equivalent of Windows UAC that requires you to put in the administrator's password, which under Linux is the root password. And then the last thing, they feel it's more secure, but I'll tell you, the bad guys are chipping away every day. There was something that just recently came up of a Ukrainian website just found out for years they have had hackers that got into it distributing malware to God knows how many victims. So trust me, it seems like you have less issues on privacy and security, I'll grant you, but the Apple people used to have thought it's more secure. You don't have to have an AV program. You don't have to have a firewall. You don't have to have any clothes on while you're running the computer. But trust me, That's changing almost on a daily basis. So you're gonna start seeing a lot more things being done in updates to plug up security vulnerabilities. And you might start seeing more and more software offerings, just like under Windows and Mac, for antivirus and other things like that to try and improve your security and privacy. The next program I've got, you're gonna love. This is a article regarding the latest version of the Windows subsystem for Linux. Several years back, I think around 2019 comes to mind. Windows created a subsystem which brings into the Windows environment a Linux kernel. But its real functionality was for drawing more software developers that prefer the Linux environment. And most of them do their work in a DOS screen or command terminal, however you want to call it. And that's not where most Windows people are at. But you can go into them after installing this. It's an option. You can go into the Microsoft Store on Windows, and there are 6 versions of the graphical environment we are used to, the majority of us, and want even in Linux. And you can be simultaneously running Windows and Linux at the same time if you've got the resources. And that's the $64 question. The less resources your system has, that's going to be impossible. You're going to probably need a 16 gigabyte memory system with Windows, and add in this subsystem, go to the Microsoft Store, load in one of the graphical interfaces, and hope that it still allows both of them to run at the same time. But I put this in here because it is an option for people who don't want to natively install Linux on their system. And that's why I also bring up from time to time, I get a cheap used computer. You can go to Goodwill as an example. A lot, not all, Goodwills frequently have used equipment that they would love to sell you. And usually the price is dirt cheap. You need to go in, find out what's available, do your research, and pick the best one you can afford. And then you can natively install Linux on it without disturbing your Windows or Mac system. That's the smart way to do it. The secondary way is on Windows or Mac, set up a virtual machine, install Linux on the virtual machine. It runs simultaneously with Windows or Mac, your Linux of choice that you installed. Again, you have to, in a virtual environment, have the resources because the 2 OSs are going to share half of your memory, at least, half of your cores, and that includes hyper-threaded cores. It's going to be sharing your internet access, et cetera, et cetera. It's a shared environment. Anybody got any questions on that particular topic? Okay, I'll move on. Now, like I've been doing for several months now, basically speaking, I take and present a lot of articles for pieces of software that a lot of people like having and using in a Windows or Mac environment. And guess what's available here in Linux? Many of the same kind of things. They may have different names. So don't expect necessarily the same software you're using on Windows or a Mac, but its functionality is basically the same thing. It may have a different look, it may have a different feel, different commands. You may be able to do more on one platform than you can do on another. We got PF Studio by this person who did this article, Inkscape, Ocular, Sigia, or I'm not sure how you enunciate that one, I'm sorry. Master PDF editor are this guy's 5 choices. Now, if I come to the next article, this is a different one by it's FOSS for free open source. And they've got a suggestion of 11 from this article. And they've got some of the same ones, but they got LibreOffice Draw. You've got Ocular, Scribus. That's an old program. You got Upta? No, Cupta. Cupa. I'm not sure how you enunciate that one. QOPPA. But it's not FOSS. And that might mean it costs money, but I'm not sure of that. You got Master PDF again. You got Xjournal ++. You got PDF Mix Tool, PDF SAM, etc. The next article has its slant on 6 best PDF editors you should use. LibreOffice Draw again, Inkscape again, only Office Document, Scribus again, Ocular again, Xjournal ++. So that's that person's slant on it. These are perspectives. You have to look at the articles and see what each of them say. Some of them will give you pros and cons. I wouldn't expect the pros and cons to be the same between several different people's point of view. And that gives you a broader perspective of what they think is good and bad about them. This is 13 ones to go through. Next, come on. Okay, next is PDF converters. And this exists in Windows and Mac as well. You might be receiving or downloading from somewhere a PDF file, but you want to be able to modify it, etc., without necessarily having one of these editors. And you want to, you feel more comfortable being, say, in Word, in LibreOffice Writer, Google Docs, etc., etc. And this will convert to a lot of other formats, a PDF file, so you can use them in a word processing environment. And these are all the apps that it's listing off here for conversion. You have to read through, and you definitely want to view the software and figure out what seems to be the best for what your needs are. So there's a lot of choices here of software you can use if you need a converter. Now I gotta move this stupid Zoom bar. Next up, I have how to set up a Linux on a Chromebook. And when, especially when you have an obsolete Chromebook that is not being updated anymore, what do you do with it? Some people will take it and junk it. Or if they can manage to get somebody to give them even $5 for it, they might do that. They might keep it and keep using it with whatever the last version of Chrome OS they have on the system. It'll keep working, but gradually, like smartphones that get real old, your applications that used to work either stop working or are automatically removed because they're no longer supported for that old version. So this gives you some ideas. And this is something you have to really get into deep. Myself and Bob Premick has done one, he's done one conversion, I've done 4 Chromebooks to Linux only. Then you have how to update and upgrade Linux on your Chromebook. It may not be as simple and straightforward, so they're getting into some issues and some things you may have to do or change on a old Chromebook that's now running Linux. You have here Chrome. Is it OS? Is it a desktop Linux? And points to consider. I found this one kind of interesting. I hope I can find it, what I'm looking for here again. Oh, first point. The first point that supports the argument that Chrome OS is a Linux desktop operating system is that it is built on the Linux kernel. Chrome OS is based on the Gen 2 Linux distribution of Linux and uses the same architecture as Linux-based operating systems. One of the main features that define Linux is the use of the Linux kernel, which offers many advantages over other kernels. As a result, Chrome OS inherits many advantages such as stability, security, and excellent performance. Secondly, the Chrome OS offers some capabilities that are common in Linux-based systems, such as terminal access. Chromebooks users can access the command line interface by pressing Control-Alt-T, which opens the bash shell. This feature grants users the ability to execute Linux commands and run bash scripts, making it possible to use the platform as a developer's environment. And I came across one article that somebody went from a Windows environment to a Chromebook for software development, which is the first time I saw or heard of somebody doing it. I have lots of Chromebooks. Most of them are obsolete right now. And I started converting some of them last year to run Linux only on them. So you can read the rest of the article, and that it gives you some real pros as to why you should consider Chrome OS as a Linux operating system. Another one is most Chromebooks run under $400. There are some that I have seen go as high as $800, and I'm not remembering for certain. There might have been 1 or 2 that went as high as $1,000. But a lot of those that are on that high end have like a i3 or an i5 Intel processor, and usually have 8 gigs or more of memory. It's getting to be that everything's got more and more memory. And on Chrome OS, you don't need much, just like many Linuxes. The Linux I'm on right now has only got 4 gigabytes of real memory. So I can do quite a bit with that. It eventually will be upgraded when I get a little bit more money. I've got other priorities right now, and I'll start buying more memory and upgrading a lot of my systems that need more memory in them. Next, now, Chrome OS, a better Linux than Linux. It's a matter of opinion. In some ways, it can be. In other ways, well, it's not as good. So you can forget about Windows. Well, I don't totally agree with it. This is the article where a developer changed from a Windows environment to a Chromebook to do whatever it is he does on the computer. And I'll let you read through this on your own, because we're getting close to our normal quitting time, and I want to try and get through as many of the other articles. Come on. Come on. Oh. Okay. Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS, or Linux, which operating system is best? A lot depends upon you, how open-minded you are, and also what is it that you want to do. All of us over time have our favorite programs to do certain things. That's another reason why, as a tech, I have multiple computers with multiple OSs on them. I try and use whatever system I think is best for the task or has the software, because sometimes you find out, hey, I got this great piece of software under this OS that I use, but it's not made to run on any other OS except in a virtual machine environment. And if you don't want to set up a virtual machine environment on your system, you can't run the OS and that piece of software on your other computer. So there's something to read through, and they're talking about 5 different OSs here primarily. Next. Okay. Google wants to transform your old PC or Mac to a Chromebook. And this gets into, they created Chrome OS Flex. Now, Chrome OS Flex is based on Chrome OS, an older version, because current versions of Chrome OS support Android apps and Linux apps if you set those up. Some people might, some people don't even know it exists, let alone would set it up. But if you run an Android phone, some of the apps that you run on the phone, you can run on current Chrome OS, but you may not be able to do that with Flex. I think because Flex started in, I think 2020 or 2021, where Chrome OS started in 2011 or 12. So Chrome OS has been around for just over a decade, whereas Chrome OS Flex has only been around a few years. So maybe down the road, they will add some of the same features to the Flex version so that you can run a regular Chromebook on Chrome OS and an old laptop probably with Chrome Flex. And be able to do basically the same thing between the two. There's another gotcha that I will also try and bring up on Chromebooks. But I'm going through these as quick as I can to let you know what this is. This is another one that talks about converting an old PC or Mac to the Chromebook and with Chrome OS Flex. And we have, come on, come on. You're being stubborn here. We don't need that. Okay. Chrome OS, OS Flex can turn the old laptop again into a Chromebook. That's a third article. Again, these give you different perspectives. They may, one may give you a tip you didn't see in any of the others. And that could be very important to you as the individual, depending on what you're wanting. And, okay. Okay, what is Chrome OS? If you're not familiar with what it is, here's everything you need to know about it. And it allows you to see some advantages. It may also tell you some various disadvantages. These are areas where Chromebooks have a good footprint in healthcare, finance, education in particular. When they were doing remote education with the school kids during the pandemic, lots of them were using Chromebooks. Only these are modified Chromebooks that have some things tied down so that some of the advanced students don't go overboard. Understand, this is written by a company and they're trying to sell you their concept and use of Chromebooks. So take that with a grain of salt in this last paragraph. I'm almost done with the articles here. Come on. My system is a little sluggish, and part of that is due to all that I have open in 4 gigs, so it's having to swap out memory. What is Chrome OS and who's it for? This should be read through too. One thing I have noted, and I don't totally understand it, and it's just a case of I didn't find an article that I wanted because I get into trying to have 2022 or 2023 articles. I try not to go back too far. But here's some of the pros of having used Chrome OS. Simple, cheap, Android app support on real Chrome OS, not on the Android one. Linux app support and security, cloud-based. Weight, they're very light because there isn't a whole lot of horsepower to the things. The screen and the battery probably weigh more than the rest of the entire system. Battery life usually can be a whole day. Cons, software compatibility, not great for gaming. That's true. If you're doing like Android games on your phone, you may be able to run the same games on the Chromebook as well. So you're talking light gaming, maybe some medium weight games, but forget high-end games. It ain't going to happen. And small storage space. That's true. Usually you have to use like an SSD or SD card, full size, or SD micro card to expand storage and periodically move things from the internal soldered in storage to the SD card. And then offline mode. Some things do work in offline mode, but a lot of things do not, because it's trying to do things through Google's cloud connection. And I've got a caveat to this yet. Okay, new Chrome OS. What you need to know. This is the part that I wanted to bring up, and I saved it towards the end here deliberately. Chrome OS in the current version is making lots of changes. Besides picking up years ago Android apps and a couple years ago Linux apps, normally the support for Chrome OS is 5 years, just like Apple, not 10 years like Windows. Then they started on some machines expanding it to 7 years. Well, if you buy a new machine right now, and when I say new, you got to go by the date the unit was built, because that's the Chrome OS version. It can go up to 10 years now. If you have a slightly older one that's still getting Chrome OS updates, you will get an option you have to opt into that will extend the life of Chrome OS 3 more years beyond what it is now. And I attended another meeting where a couple of people, they had slightly older systems, and they were supposed to be at end of life in 2024. They got the option, they activated the option. They will now get new Chrome OSs until sometime in 2027. There is another person that spoke up that has a newer system, and his goes out to 2030 in support. So these are some of the things that you have to consider. Now, the other major thing, it's starting to roll out to some machines and some users, but eventually it'll be transparent. But in those of you that have used Chrome OS, Chrome browser is built into the Chrome OS. You only get a new version of that Chrome OS when a whole OS update comes out. Now, if you look at your Chrome OS browser in settings and stuff like that, and you compare it to Windows, Mac, or Linux version of Chrome browser, you will see big disparities between the two, and the version numbers don't even come close to matching. You're under 100 under the old Chrome browser built into Chrome OS. Under the Windows, you're at least 117 version. And so that's an important feature. They are turning Chrome OS, they're taking it out of the OS and making it an app. Second thing they're doing, and by the way, even when they make it an app and it's on yours as an app, it will be very close to what you would see on Windows, Mac, and Linux, but it won't be 100% the same. But by doing that, you will be able to, I think, from what I'm grasping so far, to update the Chrome browser as frequently as is occurring in Windows, Mac, and Linux. And that's an important security feature. Another thing they're doing, the taskbar. the taskbar of Chrome OS has always put the icons centered in the middle of the taskbar like a Mac OS. The new one is shifting it all to the left like you would see on Windows. So that's another tip off. If you see all of a sudden your icons on the taskbar go from the center to the left, you've got the new version. And I'm sorry, but I don't remember the exact name of the new version. I don't remember if they stated it in here. But generally speaking, it's something that is starting to roll out. And if you're still getting updates, fine. If you have a system where the Chrome OS reached end of life, you're not going to get new life. And the only thing you can do with a Chromebook that's at end of life is convert it to a Linux computer. So these are some of the things to consider. Chromebooks can be a great adjunct to a regular system, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. And I'm not joking, especially if your Windows, Mac, or Linux system are a desktop. Chrome OS has a Chrome box that can work like a desktop, kind of in the same vein as Apple's Mac box. I forget what the exact name is, but it works very much like a Nux in a sense. But you have a situation where the Chrome OS is really evolving, and it isn't as old as Apple's Mac. It isn't as old as Windows. It's not as old as many of the Linux distributions out there. So, and it's very portable usually, because most of them are a Chromebook, which is a laptop style. And you can take that around. It has usually battery life that is like 8 hours, or in many cases, especially those that are on ARM processors, can go up to possibly 15, 16 hours. But if you, they even have now some that besides Intel based and ARM are also ones on AMD, including Ryzen chips. Now, the next, I only got 2 left, I think. Chromebooks get a boost from Google, will no longer, here's the longer lifespans. Come on. Oh, you son of a gun. You're going to shoot me down again. I know what's going on here, and I don't want to mess with it right now. But basically, the article is telling you what I just described. The last article I got up here, by the way, on the LA Times, it's usually your ad blocker that's causing the biggest problem. And if you put the LA Times in as an exception, usually you can read the article without a problem. At least I've been able to. I switched from the browser that I worked all this stuff up on to a different browser, and this browser I haven't modified. At any rate, our top 25 Chromebook tips will help you out if you haven't used a Chromebook, or even in some cases, if you're a Chromebook user, you may find tips and tricks in here that you didn't know about and can take advantage of. So it behooves you to go through these options here and see what you can glean from it. Now, I'm going to stop my share. Okay, now is there any questions while I'm working on trying to put my articles in the chat?
No,
That's a great collection of articles. I was impressed.
Oh, I've got, hey, if we had the whole night to go through, I got a ton more articles that eventually you'll get inundated with. Not joking. It's really something. And what I've been shifting gears this summer is to try and show you beyond doubt that under Linux, you can do many of the same things you do on a Windows or a Mac environment on your Windows, on your Linux system. And the only thing you have to do is understand that you're going to have to learn some new pieces of software. Remember YouTube. If you go to YouTube, lots of times on these new pieces of software, you're going to find great tutorials to start learning how to use that software to get done what you're using a different piece of software under Mac or Windows OS. And I'm not joking when I say that. I've done it many a time already. And I will keep on doing this. Why? Because I want to use my Linux more and more. So I got to learn new tools. They have similar functionality to what I'm doing on a Windows system. My Macs are too old. They're kind of retired. So I've got to learn the software, how to do the same thing on Linux. But there may be times when I don't currently have a piece of software I can use on Linux that I can use on Windows, and vice versa. It takes time for some people to get around to making the piece of software or something like it. Now, I got to see what this does. Oh, you little turkey. Okay. It didn't transfer the article, it transferred the internal URL. Peter.
Yeah, I do a lot of graphic stuff for 3D printers and for laser cutters and for other stuff like that. And both GIMP and Inkscape are cross-platform for Windows and for Linux. So if you're going to pick a new software to learn for some of this stuff, and you're using both platforms, it behooves you to actually do the search to find out if they're available on both. The same way with Audacity and some of the soundboard stuff. They're actually cross-platform. And they work very similar on both platforms.
You're going to be seeing more and more cross-platform because it behooves them and gives them a wider market. I guarantee you that's spreading like wildfire. In the chat, I've got the file. Bob Premick, and you might be interested, some of you others might be interested. I cannot, like in Windows or Mac, take and do a copy of my file in Explorer and just paste it into the chat at the bottom. I just noticed something. Okay, I got to do it again. Anyway, in the chat at the bottom, there's three little icons on the left side of the chat column. The middle one is for file. You click file and you can find your file and select it. And I double click it by selecting it, and it puts it in there And I just put it out again because I didn't remember. I sent a message to one individual. That individual was the only one to get the document. Now the document's out there for everybody. So you should be able to click on that document icon, download it to your system. You tell it where you want to put it. Usually you want to put it in your docs folder. And then you can open it up and do what you want to with it. Hopefully you'll read some of the articles and pick up some things that I had to gloss over because of a limitation of time. Any other questions or comments?
Sorry about that.
Quit doing it. Otherwise you'll have me doing it. Has everybody downloaded their copy?
Looks like I have.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay. How about you, Jeff?
I've got it. It works.
Earl, did you get your copy? And Doug, you?
No, I didn't, but I've been listening to everything. And I think I won't download it.
Well, all you have to do is on your Zoom taskbar, select chat. It'll bring up a column on the left side, I mean, on the right side of your screen. And the last entry is CCS September Linux SIG material. You don't get all the IAL, but and you just click on the icon and it'll download that into your computer so you can read the articles yourself. Same for you, Doug.
Okay, I think I've done that.
Good. Doug, we haven't heard from you, but I hope you got something out of it and keep coming back. If you got questions, try and write them down, and you can either email me or like Earl did, or you can bring them up at the meeting at the beginning. If any of you guys got something you come up with in Linux that you want to share, we can do that also at the beginning of the meeting. Computer organizations like this are their function is for everybody to share things they know about because other people might have the same kind of interest or problem that you're having, and let's try and get help or information to everybody.
Now
I've
a
been-
good time to share?
Pardon?
Is now a good time to share something that I came across?
Why not?
Okay, on the last meeting, we talked a lot about how to be able to get Linux and be able to play with it. And I happened to come across that onworks.net has where you can spin up a virtual system in the cloud. You can play with it. The only limitation is they only give you 5 minutes of idle time. They want you to be working with it. I find that it works well. It's a good replacement to the distro test. The only downside is it's Ubuntu and Ubuntu only, but they have other servers and everything, and I found it to be quite useful.
It can be very useful as a beginning point. The next is to create, download a specific OS and one tool to transfer the OS to a flash drive that's 8 to 16 gigs in size with nothing of value on it. And then put the OS on there and boot your computer up to that. And you can play around with it, but usually, unless you have persistent storage on that flash drive, it doesn't remember things. So things like setting up your Wi-Fi to make it work, you'll have to do that every time. If you have persistent storage on the flash drive, whatever settings you set up, it will remember them and, until you change them. or you blow away the image on that drive and put a new one on. And then you take that media, it gives you an icon on the desktop image on how to install Linux on a drive. If this is a Windows system or a Mac system, you don't want to do that unless you have a separate drive, usually in a USB housing or has a USB interface to plug into a USB 3 port and or higher, and you would then install it to that drive. But if you want to be safe, before you did that, you would open up the computer, disconnect the SATA cable drive from your internal drive, whether it's Windows or Mac, in order to be able to prevent accidentally installing it on that drive, because it's going to wipe it out. If you only have the flash drive and the USB, I prefer an SSD drive plugged into the USB port, those are the only two drives you're going to see. And you can't install Linux to the flash drive because that's where it's coming from. So the only other drive you have left is the USB drive you got plugged in. And now, once you got that, the only headache you have left is on a Windows system, you have to go into the BIOS and disable secure boot, just the secure boot. And it will then allow you to use an F key to bring up the boot menu. On some systems, the BIOS will give you the ability to rearrange the sequence of what it's booting up from, such as I usually have USB first. If it's got a CD or DVD drive, I have that second, and I use the internal hard drive third. And then you don't have to have far around with the boot menu F key to be able to boot off that USB drive. Bob?
As far as secure boot goes, most Linux distros have a Microsoft signing key. And for Windows 11, if you set up a Ventoid drive or if you set up the grub, you will have the ability to install the required TPM MOK keys.
Okay, in some systems it does work, but not all systems.
Right.
I've had a few that don't. So the
Yeah.
easiest thing to do is to disable that secure boot, and then either play with the F key or you get into the BIOS and see if you can change the sequence of the device it boots from. USB first, CD DVD drive second, and your internal hard drive third. If you don't have the CD DVD drive, don't worry about it. If just make the USB drive first, and if you got the USB drive with Linux on it plugged in, that's what it's going to boot up to. If you take that drive out after you shut it down and remove it, and you start up the computer again, it goes into whatever OS is on the internal hard drive. It's that easy. Been doing this for years. So anybody else got anything they want to bring up?
No,
All right. Shall we call it a day?
Aloha from the far west.
All right. Then I'm gonna call it an meeting, and I don't have my regular one. I think what happened to my main computer is the doggone power supply may have died, but I got a spare.
Hmm.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. See you next month.
Aloha.
Okay.
Thank you for the help.